A PSA from Instacart. It's Sunday, 5 p.m. You had a non-stop weekend. You're running on empty, and so is your fridge. You're in the trenches of the Sunday scaries. You don't have it in you to go to the store, but this is your reminder. You don't have to. You can get everything you need delivered through Instacart so that you can get what you really need. More time to do whatever you want. Instacart. For one less Sunday scary, we're here.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The three of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scary. Happy New Year to all the listeners of the podcast. I know it's been a little while since there was a last episode, but it's a new year and that means there is a new season. So without further delay, let's get into our next paranormal encounter. My encounter happened 2 years ago. And honestly, I am still trying to wrap my head around what happened. I had taken a trip up to Lake Lanier, you know, the one in Georgia that everyone says is haunted. Yeah, that Lake Lanier. But I wasn't there for anything paranormal. I just wanted to get away for a bit, clear my head, and spend some time near the water. Something about being near a lake, the stillness, the quiet, it usually helps me think. I found this little Airbnb, a cabin that was tucked into the woods, not far from the lake's edge. And when I got there, it felt like the kind of place that was just remote enough to feel like a retreat, but not so far away out that you can't get cell signal. The first day was completely uneventful. I spent most of it hiking around, taking in the scenery, snapping a few pictures on my phone. By the time the sun started to set, I'd made my way down to this small, secluded dock that the cabin owner had said I could use. And it was one of those picture-perfect moments. The sun dipping low over the water, everything tinted in this gold sheen, and the lake being so calm, it looked like glass. I remember sitting there for a while just soaking it all in. Out of the corner of my eye, at the far edge of the lake, maybe a couple of 100 yards away, there was somebody standing on the shore. At least I thought there was. It was hard to tell because the light was fading pretty fast, but the person looked like this tall person wearing a jacket or maybe a hoodie. They weren't moving, just standing there, staring at the water. I thought to myself that somebody was pretty much doing the same thing as what I was doing, just taking it all in. Or perhaps it was just somebody finishing up fishing. I didn't really think much of it, but I did acknowledge that there was somebody there. I remember that. I continued to watch them for a while, and there was no movement out of them at all, which I thought was very peculiar. Not even a shift in their weight, like as if they were just a mannequin. Which is funny to think, but it's the only way I can describe it. I kept glancing over while the sun dipped lower and lower, and pretty soon it was becoming too dark to see anything clearly. And it was time to head back up to the cabin. Whoever or whatever, again, at the time, nothing much to think about. Just chalked it up to some stranger on the lake. The next day I woke up early and decided to take my coffee down to the dock. It was a pretty quiet morning. I had woke up quite early. You could hear every little rustle, every splash of water. I kind of scanned across the lake with my eyes, and there was that figure again. Same height, same posture, same stillness. It was like as if they hadn't moved all night. And that made me feel uneasy, because who the hell stands on the shoreline of a lake without moving at all, staring out for the whole of the night? That's insane. What are the chances somebody's hanging out in the exact same spot going into day 2 now, especially at sunrise? I pulled out my phone and I zoomed in on the camera, but the distance was too far to get a clear enough picture. It just looked like this dark shape against the trees. I did think about shouting to see if they'd respond, move even, but something about the whole situation made me a bit hesitant. After all, I was there on my own. They were on their own. Are they crazy? Would they attack me if I brought myself to their attention? Instead, I sat there sipping my coffee and pretended I wasn't really looking at them, even though I pretty much was. After maybe 10 minutes, I looked in at my phone to check the time, and when I glanced back up, they were gone. The rest of that day was pretty uneventful in terms of strange people standing on shorelines. And that night I sat on the porch of the cabin, scrolling on my phone, having some wine, enjoying the cool air. I wasn't even thinking about the figure by the lake. And then I heard this faint splash into the water. Not loud, but just loud enough to make you look up. The moon was out and the water was reflecting enough light that you could see the lake pretty clear. And there it was again. Not on the shore this time, but standing on the dock. My dock. Just standing there, completely motionless. I don't know how to describe the feeling that came over me. It wasn't exactly fear, but it was this deep, unsettling sense that I was seeing something that I wasn't supposed to. I wanted to go inside, I wanted to lock the door and forget I'd ever come to this lake, but at the same time I couldn't look away it was like I was frozen, stuck in this weird standoff with whoever or whatever was standing on the dock. But I quickly snapped out of it and gathered my things and made my way back inside to the cabin, locking the door, and rang my friend just to let them know what was happening. I didn't really feel it was appropriate to alert anyone to, hey, somebody's standing on the shoreline of a lake, and then they went and stood on the dock. The next morning, I was determined to try and figure out who this person was or what exactly was going on. So I decided to stay near the dock for most of the day, hoping to catch sight of whoever had been lurking around. Hours went by and nothing unusual happened, just the occasional breeze and people would pass by, but it wasn't the person that I saw on the dock the night previous or standing on the shoreline. By late afternoon, I remember thinking I had kind of overreacted about the whole thing. It felt really stupid. And then as the sun began to set again, out in the lake, I saw that person or thing again. The same height, same posture, same weird feeling by just looking at it. And the part that really got to me was the water around them wasn't moving. You'd think somebody standing waist deep in a lake would cause ripples, right? No, the surface was perfectly calm. It was like as if they weren't even there. I grabbed my phone again, and just like before, the camera couldn't pick up anything useful. It was too far away, too blurry. It looked like a bird, but it wasn't a bird. It was a human. Frustrated, I remember I started to walk down the dock, thinking maybe if I got closer, I could get a better look. But as soon as I took a step, just like that, gone, vanished. Not like they turned away and walked away. It was 1 second they were there, and the next second they were gone, just gone. That night I couldn't sleep because seeing something like that messes with your brain. It's not logical. It wasn't a trick of the light. Every little noise outside made me jump. I kept the porch light on the whole night. I kept replaying what I saw in my head over and over, trying to make sense of it. So much so I was talking myself out of it. Was it a person? Was it a reflection? Is it some sort of weird optical illusion? None of this added up. The fact that this thing was moving in different spots, and the fact that I had saw it completely disintegrate into thin air. Deep down I just knew that there wasn't really this logical explanation for it. Whatever I had seen, it wasn't something normal. The next day when I woke up, I tried to put it to the back of my mind. Decided to, make the most of my last day there. And I had a great day that day. It was nice, great food, went on an amazing hike. It was really, really nice. And again, as it got a little bit later in the day, I wondered if I'd see this figure again. In the cabin there was a flashlight, and I came up with this idea that I would sit out on the porch and grab my flashlight and flick it on, aim it right at the figure if I happen to see it. It was a beautiful night that night. It was so nice. Dead silent. My eyes kept watching on the far shore, scanning for any movement or that figure again. And then, just as that last bit of daylight faded, there appeared the figure. This time, not on the shoreline, but barely 20 feet away from me, to my right. I screamed so loudly. I remember scrambling to get the flashlight, which was right beside me, but I kept fumbling with it in my hands, and I could still see them out of the corner of my eye, that they were still standing there. This figure that wouldn't move. I got up out of the chair and tried to turn around and grab the flashlight. Eventually I managed to turn it on. As I directed the light towards them, I realised that I couldn't see any eyes. I remember my heart pounding so hard that I thought it was going to burst. It was like you were shining a light on a shadow, but the shadow wasn't disappearing. It was the strangest experience I've ever had in my life. The silhouette of a person, just pure dark, like not quite black, just standing there. It was so bizarre. All of this was seconds, and then once again completely disappeared. And I stood there for what felt like eternity with a flashlight in my hand, shining it at nothing, trying to process what had happened, shaking. Eventually my body reconnected and I ran back inside the cabin and locked the door. That whole night I did not sleep at all. I called I don't know how many people in my phone book just to talk to somebody. Every creak sounded like somebody was walking on floorboards. I just remember thinking, I'll get through the night, and when it gets bright I'll just gone. I packed my stuff that night. Everything was packed, everything was ready to go, and in the morning I did just that. I got in my car, drove away, and will most likely never return to a cabin by a lake ever again. Thank you to Carolann for sending in your paranormal experience. If you have your own paranormal experience and you'd like me to narrate it on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com and it just might get narrated on the show. Thank you so much for all your support. We have had so many new listeners, so many new followers to the podcast. I appreciate every single one of you. It is amazing how much this podcast has grown since I started it. A new laptop arrives tomorrow. I cannot wait for it, as the one I'm recording on at the moment is a pile of junk. On a side note, I'm feeling a lot better, which is great, and thank you all for your kind words. Don't forget, you can join the show's Instagram or Facebook group. The links are in the show notes, so come and say hello if you wish. Or you can send me a message directly on Instagram. I'll try to get back to you guys. But other than that, thank you so much for listening, and join me next week for another episode of Scary.
Hi, I'm Casey, host of the Case File podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile. offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked. With Boost Mobile, you get nationwide coverage and fast network speeds at a fraction of the price. Why pay more for the same great service? Unlimited plans start at just $25 a month, and you won't be sacrificing coverage to save. So why wait? Start saving with Boost today. The Boost mobile network, together with their roaming partners, covers 99% of the US population. 5G speeds not available in all areas. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find us online at boostmobile.com. Money back guarantee. Try Boost Mobile risk-free for 30 days. If you don't like us, you get your money back. Requires port-in and autopay. Customers who cancel within 30 days of activation will have Boost service fees refunded. Activation fees, if applicable, and phone payments will not be refunded.
You walk in tired and hungry, one bad dinner away from losing it. You don't like to cook. You don't want more takeout. You just want something good. That's why there's Dish by Blue Apron. Pre-made meals with at least 20 grams of protein and no artificial flavors or colors. From fridge to fork in 5 minutes or less. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.